want to build on something Monica said just a second ago. If you call yourself an ally and you're not standing close enough to us to get hit with the rocks we're getting hit with, then you're not an ally. Like you said, my name is Zoe Halo. I'm a Two-Spirit woman, Cherokee Nation member from Oklahoma. I moved here 7 years ago after I transitioned. We're here this evening to honor the memory of our friends, our siblings, partners, compatriots, and I know a lot of us, including myself, is having a harder time than usual because of our current political climate. So I've come to tell you about my people. Like I said, I'm a storyteller, and we use our stories to relay history and knowledge, life lessons, education, as well as wisdom. And so there's a lot of parallels between the history of my people and the history of all of you here today, because right now we're currently in the making of history. So before the colonists from Europe came here, there were millions of natives here in what is now the United States. Hundreds of tribes, thousands of clans, a lot of them recognizing as many as 30 or more genders and gender persuasions. Some of them not recognizing gender at all. People were just people. So when the colonizers arrived, they seemed pretty harmless. The natives saw them and helped them survive. You know, I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard the myth of Thanksgiving, where they wouldn't have made it through the first Thanksgiving had it not been for the natives. There's a lot of truth to that. But as the colonists gained strength, they introduced ideas and technology to help the natives as well. And as time went on, they started insisting that the natives were lesser people because they didn't believe or live in a way that mirrored the colonists or what the colonists thought were proper ideals for proper human beings. And so the colonists did what they do and started taking everything from the natives, forcing them to move to smaller and less habitable places, until we were finally forced to settle in Oklahoma after the Indian Removal Act of 1830. But after a string of long and bloody fights, the colonizers claimed they were victorious. The formerly millions of natives that had been reduced to only a fraction of what we once were, but they didn't kill us all. See, when the government figured out that exterminating us wasn't really as popular as they had hoped, they struck at us a different way, this time coming for our culture. They forced us to assimilate. They took our children and put us in residential schools. I actually attended a residential school, and it was one of the last schools that was in existence until they finally closed them all down in the mid-90s. When we were there, you're not allowed to speak your own language. You weren't allowed to participate in any of rituals or religions that were considered native. You weren't allowed to dance our dances, sing our songs. And this was all part of colonizing us as a people. It's trying to strip us of our culture. They knew that killing us wasn't going to happen anymore, so they would take our culture, our strength, and the thing that binds us all together as one force. But we continued to fight. We fought on, and we took them on in the courts and even in actual fights at times. One of the most notable being Wounded Knee 2 in the 70s. But in 1978, we got the American Religious Freedom Act passed. And that's when things really started turning around for us, in my opinion. And I believe it's because we were allowed to practice and live our culture again. Residential schools began closing down, and the nations started finding ways to support making money and fund our own success as a people. Opening schools, funding colleges, providing housing and health care, and really just all of us as the Cherokee Nation taking care of each other. We've even won our own sovereignty back as a nation in the state of Oklahoma. The McGirt decision was handed down by the Supreme Court a few years ago, and the state of Oklahoma doesn't even have sovereignty over us as constituents of the Cherokee Nation anymore. They can't use Oklahoma law to prosecute us for anything now that's criminal. It has to be done through Cherokee courts and federal courts now. I'm telling you all this as a reminder that this is the land we live in. And it's got a long history of doing to us now what it's been doing for the past couple hundred years to other cultures, other groups of people. But as long as we keep our culture, as long as we keep our identity as a people, as a group, they can't end it. They can't end it all. So the names that we read here tonight, we owe it to them to be their living legacy and to keep the stories of them, to tell those stories, because they are our history. And that is our culture. Remember that just like my people, our common culture here is our strength. And just like my people, the Cherokee, have survived, we will survive as long as we maintain that. And we will eventually thrive. We won't just survive. I hope to see all of you here next year.